morning. Welcome in here, out there. I am Yasara Antar, President of the Board of Trustees of May 9 Unitarian Church. Still? I know, right? Queen Bee takes over next month on a date and time I shall decide upon. Barbara Colton. I am joined today by this worship team cast. Our music is by Jody Brown and special guest Carolyn Giardini. Dawn Star Sarah Borchelt is our Director of Lifespan Faith Development. Dr. Tracy Simpson is our worship associate, and Reverend John Morehouse is our senior minister. We are delighted that you are with us today. Hi at home. Who are we? This isn't UUA sanctioned. This is who I think we are, or would like us to be. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are in an endless journey of becoming our ideal selves that involves not infighting and recognizing that we have a lot more in common with each other than not, and then living our shared values instead of ritualizing them. We strive for deeds, not creeds. Every one of us are yellow shirts at heart, even though some of us deny it. We don't judge based on too many things, and we don't think too kindly on those who do. If you're new, find out more about our yellow shirt philosophy at coffee hour. 2 announcements today. One is actual board announcement. I know Reverend John said no announcements this year, but gonna do it anyway. So I got permission, and he won't have a conniption. Ministerial tantrums are so last year. This is a well-adjusted guy. We are having an annual congregational meeting on June 9th. If you witness the cataclysm of last year, you'll want to come to this one. This one is being done right. It will be functional. It'll be worth your while. Some of us are still in therapy for last year. We know how much you love change, so we decided we're going to rewrite 80% of your bylaws. So you may want to come and vote on that, June 9th. Finally, this is my last day in this hot tub pulpit ever. Barbara Colton will be your welcomer for June to close out the church year, and she will speak on behalf of the board at the annual meeting. Reverend John gracefully granted me some extra time to say goodbye, so I will leave you with some random assortment of items, and you put them in any category you wish. 1, I am not Barbara Colton. Many of you call me her name, and you ask about health and surgery and kids and family because you think I'm her. I am not. It is an insult to her, actually. She is not Hero's wife, she's been called. We are not twinsies. We are not related. She is not here, so I'm going to say this. When I first met Barbara last year in Greeley, about a year ago, she said, I have nothing to do with my life, and I'm wondering, sussing out, should I do search or should I do board? And I explained to her what board life would be like, and so she joined search, and we got Reverend John out of that, so thank you, Barbara. Barbara, I will say this as well. It's so easy, you're not here. It's been an honor holding the space for you until you joined last year. I knew when I met you that you would be the one to rule the MLUC world, and it has been an honor holding that space and supporting the heck out of you, excuse my language, since you joined. 2, Nini is the best welcomer you've ever had. Nini, you need to join the board again so you can welcome. 3, Griselda, you are a treasure. I could not have done this past year without you. You are a gem, G. 4, congratulations, Caroline Bright, on baby Subsplash. There is a basket of fruit from the board in your office. You might want to come collect that before September. 5. Reverend John is like me. I remember the moment of recognition when I realized that we are very alike. No offense, Reverend John. I almost stood up on my chair and shouted it out. Sidebar. So I do stand on my chair in the back to count you. And one day I waited too late, and the kids were leaving, and one of them saw me and said, "Mommy, she's standing on her chair." And Mom was not too pleased and said, "I know." So whoever that was, I apologize. I don't mean to teach your kids bad manners. Anyway, my point is, don't miss me too much. Reverend John and I are very similar. We are amazing people, and you get it or you don't, and we're very humble, too. Now, please silence your devices and join me one last time in affirming our mission statement. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
Good morning. Don Star, would you light the chalice for me? We light this chalice with our hearts full of abundance. Spirit of life, thank you for loving us however we show up, for assuring us that we are enough just as we are. Connect us to the heart of the world and back again to this very moment. Please rise in body or spirit and join Caroline and Jody in hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
The world is full of secrets, gentle, shy things that some people know and some don't. The best secrets are the ones that make us happy, and the best thing about any secret is sharing it with someone else who wants to know. Perhaps you'd like to know a secret, one of the happiest ones of all. You will surely find it for yourself one day. You'll discover it on your own, maybe when you least expect it. You might discover the secret at dawn, a morning like all other mornings. The sun climbs over the edge of the earth and begins to fill the world with light and warmth. It touches your cheek with a golden ray, and you say softly, simply, "Thanks. Thank you, sun, for the gift of a new day, for all its choices and challenges, for all its beauties that it brings." Or sometime perhaps you'll notice a flower as if for the very first time and thank it. Or you might discover the secret when you find yourself under an old tree and, grateful for cool shade on a hot day, stay a while beneath its limbs. One day, long day, you may stop to rest upon a rock, a silent stone that's been waiting age upon age for someone to come along and just say, "Thank you. Thank you, all stones and rocks and pebbles and hills and mountains. Thank you for your silence and patience, for standing still and not changing in a world so full of noise and speed and change." You may find the secret when you hear a bird sing and feel grateful for the gentle music of the skies. And perhaps you'll remember to thank all creatures who swim or crawl or creep or burrow or climb or run. And the stars, tiny twinkling beams from far, far away, farther than you can even dream, that give just enough light for dreaming or wishing upon. Beneath that moon, the earth's waters are spread with silver, lakes and rivers, ponds and puddles, streams and oceans. It is the waters that make the magic of life possible. Perhaps one day, taking a cool drink or paddling a canoe or swimming or splashing in the sun, you will remember to say, "Thanks. Thank you, waters, for sweet drinks, for cool swims and reflecting sunsets, and for the gift of life itself." Maybe you'll find the secret in your own home, sitting around a table with people you love, giving thanks for good food and the good earth that gave it, for the many hands that prepared it, and for family to share it. Perhaps one day you'll feel the secret when someone is holding your hand or kissing away tears or hugging you close or reading you a story or tucking you into bed at night or reminding you to say your prayers. For here is the secret, if you've not already guessed it. The heart that gives thanks is a happy one, for we cannot feel thankful and unhappy at the same time. The more we say thanks, the more we find to be thankful for. And the more we find to be thankful for, the happier we become. We don't give thanks because we're happy. We are happy because we give thanks. Children may go to their classes now, and we'll see you at coffee hour.
Each month, we donate half our weekly collection to a worthy organization in need. This month, the recipient of our May offering outreach is T&E Care, an all-volunteer, registered 501(c) nonprofit organization here in our community. T&E Care's mission is to provide short-term assistance to local people in need, which is fulfilled by the selfless contributions of neighbors just like you and me. Individuals reach out to T&E Care in moments of despair. They are our neighbors, the parents of our children's classmates, community members living and working in Tredyffrin and Easttown townships. Your support can help with things like rent to help families facing eviction, utility bills to keep the heat and the lights on, car repairs so our neighbors can get to work, and mental health counseling to those overcome with life's challenges. T&E Care also holds an annual clothing drive, holiday drive, and what's coming up now is the school supply drive, the week after school is out in TE. So that following Monday, they'll be stuffing backpacks at one of the local elementary schools and preparing backpacks full of school supplies for the following year. We're actually going, my son and I are going to stuff backpacks on Monday. T&E Care aligns with the UU principle number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and principle number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. To make a cashless donation while they're watching remotely or here in the sanctuary, please follow the instructions you see on the screen, or there's a QR code. You could use your phone and take a picture. The offering will now be greatly received. Will the ushers please come forward?
Hi, all. I am so sad that I cannot be with you in person today. I'm obviously so happy that little Birdie Bright is here and doing wonderfully, but I was really looking forward to celebrating the culmination of this internship with all of you wonderful folks at Mainline. I have been telling people for the last 2 years that I have the best internship ever, and that's because it's true. I have had a truly extraordinary time learning from all of you over the last 2 church years, and I could not possibly be more grateful. The quotation that I was basing my sermon around for this week is a Meister Eckhart quote, where he says, "If the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, that will be enough." And as we close out these 2 years together, that's really all I can think of is just thank you. Thank you to the staff, to all of the people who served on my internship committee over the last 2 years, to the folks who have made this experience such a rich learning opportunity. I don't want this to sound like an Oscar speech, so I'm not going to sit here and list off names of every single person who has contributed to this experience, because it has been so incredibly full of wonderful people who have made a difference. And at the risk of sounding cheesy, it is Mainline Unitarian Church that has made me a minister, literally and figuratively. And I am just so appreciative of the time that you all have invested, of your commitment to hosting interns, of your commitment to helping ministers learn how to be better ministers, whether they're interns or not. And I am genuinely so sad to be moving on from my internship, which is not something I ever thought I would say. I came in completely convinced that I would only ever pursue chaplaincy and that congregational ministry was not for me. And you fine people have ruined that. So just know that you are to blame if I go into congregational ministry. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm not going to take up any more time because we want to get to coffee hour by 11:15 at the latest. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all again this fall. We've got some fun things planned. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you all so very much for an incredible 2 years for me and for my family. I'm grateful to you all.
It is our custom to share our personal joys and sorrows, expecting to be heard, accepted, and supported. Candles of Community is our ritual of personal sharing and support. After the candle is lit, please join me in saying, "We hold you in our hearts." So this morning we light a candle of joy for Rich Alger, who is finally back home from knee replacement surgery after spending 5 days in the hospital. It was a tough experience, but he's now home, and we look forward to his getting better and better every day. For Rich and his family, we hold you in our hearts. That's it, there's only one. So the reading today is called "I Am Enough," a poem about worthiness. There is a wholeness that's already mine. It's already ours. I'm not just the seed, I am the rain that waters the flower. It's a reality that's already here, that I am enough. I am. I am wise enough to let go. I am strong enough to remember the truth of who I really am. I can encounter the world in such a way that I remember who I am. I take on faith that wholeness is already mine, that I need to do nothing to deserve it, that my worthiness is based only on my being. I am. I am the rest inside the unrest. I am the depth of the sky and the light piercing the sea. I am the crest of the wave. All that I need to be, I am. There is no problem to solve in this moment. There is no plan to make, no failure to be feared, no other place to be. This moment is enough. This place is enough. I am enough. Please join me now for a moment of silent reflection.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Sarah. We are a lot alike. It's true. And thank you to Jody. Thank you, Carolyn, for the beautiful music. To our ushers, I could just go on. The tech deck guys, the people who come in and open the building up in the morning, the greeters, our custodial staff, the people who help our children learn and grow. So many people to say thank you to, and thank you to Caroline Bright, who is not here in person but is with us in spirit. This was to be her last sermon to you before the end of her internship. In fact, this afternoon she technically graduates from Meadville Lombard Theological School. And of course, she's not going to be in Chicago. She's going to be at home with children and new baby Birdie. But we will be with her in spirit as she continues her journey. And the thing that she was alluding to at the end of her video is that in June, we will vote whether or not to ordain Carolyn Bright to our ministry. It has to be a congregational vote. That's the way we are convened. That's the way we covenant with one another. And so you'll have an opportunity to show your love and affirmation in June at the annual meeting. And then in September, the date's already been set, we will gladly ordain her to the Unitarian Universalist ministry. It's good to see new faces out there. If you don't know who I am, I'm John Morehouse. I'm the senior minister here for 3, 5, 7 years. All depends on how we like each other after a period of time. But I want to begin today's sermon with a story. Long ago, the queen of an ancient land was old and she was dying. She loved children but had none of her own. So the queen decided to choose one of the children of the land to be the next ruler. Now, this queen also loved plants, and of those she had many. So nobody was surprised by the test that she offered the children of the land. The queen called all the children to the palace, and she said, "I will give one seed to each of you. Come back in 1 year, and when I see what you have grown from your seeds, I will choose the next ruler." The children ran from the palace smiling. All they had to do was grow a seed, and how hard can that be? And then they'll be the ruler. But a year is a long time. And children decided to wait a while before they did their planning, and of course, as years go by, children forget. But one child, a boy named Chen, took his seed right away, and just like the queen herself, Chen loved plants. He carefully carried the queen's seed home in cupped hands so he would not crush it. As soon as he got home, he found a beautiful clay pot that his grandfather had made. He thought it would be just the right pot to grow the seed the queen had given him. He washed the pot and dried it carefully and filled it with soil, rich black soil that had many worms in it to make it nourishing. And then he planted the seed, carefully covering it with the soil. He set the pot in the sun. Each day he lightly sprinkled water on the seed, and yet nothing grew, nothing at all. The weeks went by, and other children were boasting about the wonderful large plants they were growing, but Chen's seed did not grow. He tried moving the seed from window to window. He tried watering his plant more and then less, and then he tried singing to his plant. But no matter what Chen did, the plant would not grow. And the year came to pass, and it was time to return to the queen, and Chen was not happy. He was very sad that his seed had not grown. But his grandfather, who was wise in many things, said, "You did your best, Chen. You were caring and patient, and be honest with the queen and explain that that is what you did, and it will be enough." So Chen returned to the palace with his empty pot, save for the soil held carefully in his arms. And there were children lined up already to present their plants. The first child had a large plant with thick leaves, a ginseng plant that could be used to make paper and medicine. The next child had a eucalyptus plant, healthy, strong. It would soon be a tree big enough to produce food for many animals. And by the time Chen's turn came, he was so sad about his empty pot, feeling very embarrassed, he held up his pot to the queen to see, and he explained that he had lovingly cared for the seed. He talked about his love for his grandfather who had made the pot, and he told the queen he'd done so much for the seed and how sad he was that the seed would not grow. The queen smiled and said, "There's only one among you who is honest enough to be the ruler. You see, the seeds I gave you were all boiled, so they would not grow. These wonderful plants children have shown me did not come from the seeds I gave them." And now the children looked guilty because they had not been honest, and the queen knew it. And she said, "Only one child cared for the seed even when it did not grow. Only one, Chen, gave the seed all it needed and asked for nothing in return. Only Chen was honest enough to show me the empty pot, and Chen will be our next ruler." Chen moved to the palace with his grandfather, and the queen taught him many things before she passed on, about gardening and much more. And when she died, she was smiling because she knew that Chen would care for the land with love and honesty, that he would care for the hungry, he would care for those who had no home, he would care for those who had empty pots. This is a crazy world in which we're living. I don't need to tell you that. You just turn on the television. No, turn off the television. Read the paper, maybe. It seems absolutely bizarre that someone's running for president who's actually in court. It seems absolutely bizarre that we have all these problems before us. We have the war in Gaza. We have untold millions suffering around us, here in this country and around the world. And it's easy to feel a little bit guilty about that, to be overwhelmed by that. I would expect you to be, because after all, you are compassionate beings with full hearts. You are faithful Unitarian Universalists. We should feel a little guilty, I think, because maybe we're not always doing all we can. When I was living in Chicago, working on my doctorate, I would carry a lot of $1 bills along with me as I went down the street because there were a lot of unhoused people there who were asking for money. And I would try to hand out everything I could, make sure that I had nothing when I got to the school, but I always tried to look in their eyes and say, "I see you. And maybe I see me in you." I told you this story for two primary reasons. The first is that I think we can make the world a better place. I actually do believe that what we do as individuals here in this congregation, in our families, in our communities, actually does make a difference. It's just hard to see it because you don't know what it would look like if you didn't make the difference. Chen did all he could to make that plant grow, but it wouldn't. Instead, he put it in a different way of looking at it, understanding that sometimes things don't grow, but you still need to care for them. Now, I'm not so sure I like the queen tricking the kids. I don't think you should trick kids, but I do think that being honest about who we are and what we have puts our heart in the right place, puts our heart in the holy place. Although it's a well-known fact that poor people give more money than rich people, maybe that's why rich people are rich, but what we do know is that those who give with thanks and gratitude make the world and themselves better at the same time. I think about this congregation and how it has responded to the need for new community and new energy in this last church year. I think about the plurality of generosity, the money that you have given, the time that you have given, the love that you give to groups that you know, and to those who have yet to walk through our doors. But the other reason I picked this story is that regardless of whether Chen was able to make the plant grow, there will be others who can make the plant grow. I think all of us, because we're so steeped in individualism, sometimes lose sight of the fact that we're not alone. I remember a woman who was going to go on a trip after her husband had died, and she was worried about whether she could go because she wasn't sure that she could lift the bag and put it in the rack above the seat. And her daughter said, "Mom, there will be someone there to lift the bag. You do not have to worry about that." There's a wonderful line in the Star Wars movies, I don't remember which one it was, where Obi-Wan Kenobi, the great master, is teaching Vader, his student who then becomes evil, but that's another story. And they're trapped on this planet, and they don't know how to get off the planet. And Vader's very worried, and Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "A solution will present itself." I think it's one of the most profound statements in a movie I've ever heard, and I live by it all the time. A solution will present itself. If we were quoting the Gospels, this would be where Jesus says, birds do not need anything but what God has given them. But for us, the solution will present itself means that as a community, something is going to come up that is going to change the way you look at the world. There are answers there, even when you don't think there'll be an answer. If our eyes are open, the solution often presents itself, maybe not in the form you were looking for, which is the problem with expectations, but a solution usually does come forward. If our pot is empty, there will be others whose pots are full. This is the faith, this is the covenant, to use that old word, of what it means to be part of a Unitarian Universalist congregation and part of a Unitarian Universalist faith at all. This understanding that we can be there for each other. This is why we give money to the congregation. This is why we try to be as generous as we can. It's not a member services organization, friends. When you come to me and complain about something, which you will do more and more as you get to know me more and more, there'll be many complaints. This is what it should be. We should try this. Why don't we do this? If we were the YMCA, I'd have a suggestion box, and you could put your suggestion in or do it online. And you can send me your suggestions. But what we are here is not a member services organization. We're actually a community of people who have solutions for one another. You see, honesty and generosity go hand in hand with community and cooperation. At least that's how it's supposed to work. Sometimes we think it's all going to happen from within, right? We think I will somehow become this better person because I meditate for 23 minutes a day, or I go on a walk, or I volunteer. And that may be true, but you don't do anything alone. The Buddhist asks for a vegan burger at the stand, and she says, "Make me one with everything," which, by the way, is another joke. And hands the vendor a $20 bill, but there's no change coming from the vendor. And she says, "Excuse me, but where's my change?" And the vendor says, "Change comes from within." That's true. But it still takes the exchange of one another to actually make the world go along. And here's what I know. There's more than enough money to feed all the homeless, to feed all the hungry of the world. There's more than enough to house the unhoused. The trouble is, where is it? Friends, we're finishing up our annual fund drive. It's actually finished, but I noticed as I was going through the figures that there's about 42 of us who have not yet made a contribution, a commitment for the following church year. This is important to do. Why is it important to do? Because when we all participate, at whatever level we can afford to participate, we are saying, I covenant with this community. I am part of this community. And while whatever I have will never be enough for the entire community, what little I do have will be enough. So this is the time to do it. This is the time to go online. I'm personally asking you, if you're here or you're online out there, please make that contribution. Please make the commitment for next year. In one of my churches, the congregation loved poetry. Honestly, I'm not sure why they called me there at all. I couldn't recite a single poem. They asked me that during the search process. They said, do you have any poems you like? And I said, poems? Well, our previous minister could recite poetry from memory. The minister emeritus, Frank Hall, fabulous, wonderful preacher. He had hundreds of poems in his head. It was really a beautiful thing. But I really didn't like poetry. I didn't understand poetry. I understand stories, I'm a storyteller, but a poet, not so much. But as time went on with that congregation, I learned to appreciate poetry because I realized in the give and take of their language, their love language, that poetry was what they loved. And so I learned to love poetry. I learned to unlock what was inside of me and let it free because there was more than enough love inside myself to love poetry. I still love stories more, but poems are powerful. They speak to the ineffable. They speak to the liminal, to that which cannot always be talked about, that cannot always be understood. Poems are that which unlocks the inner spirit. Prayers can do this too, and we had a service a while back about what prayer can do. Prayers can unlock that, and you don't need to submit to anything to do a prayer. A prayer is simply an unleashing of the inner thanks. Remember, the three essential prayers are wow, thanks, and help. So given that we have this power here, given that we have within us this energy that is right there, what would it take for us to reach out to someone we haven't met today? And there are people in this room we have not met, or online you have not met. What would it take for us to unleash, to unlock that spirit? So I'm falling in love with poetry slowly. Like all good things, you should fall in love slowly. Well, you may fall in love all at once and then fall out of love, and then you'll fall in love slowly. People who have been married a long time know about this. I want to close with a poem. This from Naomi Shabnai in her collection, The Red Suitcase. You can't order a poem like you order a taco. Walk up to the counter and say, I'll take two, and expect it to be handed back to you on a shiny plate. Still, I like your spirit. Anyone who says, here's my address, write me a poem, deserves something in reply. So I'll tell you a secret instead. Poems hide. In the bottom of our shoes, they're sleeping. They are shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. What we have to do is live them in a way that lets us find them, because there are more than enough of them. Once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for Valentine's Day. He couldn't understand why she was crying. He said, I thought they had such beautiful eyes. And he was serious. He was a serious man who lived and loved in a serious way. Nothing was ugly just because the world said so. He really liked those skunks, so he reinvented them as Valentine's gifts, and they became beautiful to him, at least to him. And the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives gives us, we'll find the poetry again. So check your garage. Check the off socks in your drawer. The person you almost like but not quite, check with them and let me know. let our poems together begin, and there'll be more than enough. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 121, We'll Build the Land. Please rise in body or spirit. We will build a land where we will rise up and care for those in need. We will build the land where we will know one another in ways still yet to be discovered. Come, friends, let us build that land together. And please remain seated for the postlude.